And most of these cars are just terribly built, thrown together, and let's be real, they look like shit. The subject matter of this video actually came from a disagreement that my friends and I had in this car-related group chat that we're in. But really what sparked that disagreement was there's been some pretty cool stuff. Cool is kind of in italics, but there's been some interesting things on Facebook Marketplace lately, and I wanted to kind of share my opinion of them to see where everyone else kind of stood on this topic. There's this guy right now, and this is actually the subject of the video because I think this is the coolest thing. This guy is literally building one of my dream cars from a similar car. So he's building his own CLK GTR. So if you guys aren't familiar, they made 5 Roadster CLK GTRs and I think either 25 or 50 hardtop cars. So they're incredibly rare. The only reason the car even exists is because Mercedes wanted to race in Le Mans, and to do so, they had to make the car road legal. So they made the car road legal, and then they put the car in the race to qualify. So it's an extremely rare, extremely bespoke car, and I would love to have one, but the chances of me even being able to buy one are just slim to none. Even if I do have the money, the odds of that happening are low. That's kind of how like rare a car like that is. But anyway, so this guy is building this car off of an E-Class chassis. What kind of sparked this conversation is I think everyone, when they hear kit car, they think of a Pontiac Fiero with a terrible Lamborghini body over it or something like that. And for the record, I think those cars are awful. Awful. Most of them still have the terrible V6s in them, or even the 4-cylinder Iron Dukes, depending on how much money they had. And the Fiero is just not a good car for something like that. I mean, like, on its own, as a classic GM, whatever, you know what I mean? Like, they're kind of cool looking on their own. It's 80s, you know, there's a whole thing to it. The car itself is fine, but it's not performance oriented at all. They're not fast. You're building like a kit of like a Countach, let's say, right? And your starting point is a car that doesn't drive like a Countach, it doesn't run like a Countach, it doesn't sound like a Countach, it doesn't handle like a Countach. And most of these cars are just terribly built, thrown together, and let's be real, they look like shit. They all look just awful. So not a fan of that, and those aren't the kit cars that I like. The kit cars that I do like are cars that are like completely built from the ground up, and they have, I guess like the essence of the car is built within the kit car to resemble the original. So like, for example, this CLK GTR that the guy is building from an E-Class, he's trying to make the car run and drive, loosely like it. Is he going to get close? No. It's that age-old meme. Who would win? A team of engineers and a $10 million engineering budget, or some guy in his garage with an angle grinder? You know what I mean? Like, I'm well aware that it's not going to, like, handle exactly like a CLK GTR, but we're talking, like, I think a CLK GTR is like a $5 million car at this point. So even if you do had one, you probably wouldn't want to drive it all that much. But anyway, so this guy's building this car, and he's retrofitting the car with a V12, and it's going to be rear mounted. I'm actually not sure how he's going to do that. He hasn't posted pictures of that yet, but so far we know that the engine's going to be in the back just like the original. He's using an Audi transaxle, so the car's going to have a manual. Probably a smart choice for a kit car because you have a little bit less of those electronics to deal with. I think that's probably a smart move on his part, but depending on how he sets the rest of the car up, it actually could handle pretty well. What this guy is going to do is he's going to basically completely change the handling characteristics of this car when he puts the engine in the back. Like, that alone is going to change the way the car handles. So he's making this thing not from any kit or anything. Like, he's just using like some models, and I'm assuming at one point he saw one in person and took some good notes of it. So it's really cool that, you know, he's going to be building his own. And there's some little details, if you look at like the taillights, for example, don't quite line up. But again, this kind of goes along with what I was saying about like the essence of the car. I think that he also, a saving grace for him, in my opinion, is the fact that I think it's easier to get away with fudging proportions on something like a Mercedes, because if you look at like Countach, it's like, look how square they are, and like the Murcielago, even like I mentioned earlier, they have like a specific design to them where it just kind of works. The whole thing is a box. And if you start tweaking things on that and deviate even a little bit from the original, it just looks like crap. But I don't think that is true of this guy's CLK GTR custom. Is it one-to-one? No, actually it's not. The fender flares front and rear aren't quite as exaggerated, but the guy did widen the car, so that also is going to help the handling, by the way. But all in all, I think he's going to get really close to it. I guess this kind of begs the question then, what else is kind of acceptable? Because, you know, me personally, I've already ruled out making these high-performance sports cars out of piece of junk, 40-year-old piece of shit, piece of trash, garbage-ass piece of shit Chevy cars. So what is permissible? And for me, using the whole Countach example that I've been using, there's several people now that have built their own Countach kit cars out of like tube chassis. And if you're not familiar, tube chassis, if you were to take the body off of like a real drag car or a NASCAR or really any purpose-built race car, you would basically just see a collection of tubes, like literally just metal tubes. Think of like a dune buggy, you know what I mean? It's like the skeleton. And these are always like purpose-built applications. They're super rigid. Almost always when you do this, you're hand-picking your own suspension setup. You're hand-picking your own brakes. Usually you're going to get like a Brembo brake kit or something like that. You're actually going to be able to stop the damn thing. So when you go tube chassis, you're really kind of building your own car. And this isn't exactly the same, but when you look at a lot of these like low production, high-end sports cars, a lot of them are almost built to the same caliber because, you know, those are handmade too. And I get it. There's a difference, you know, once again, I have to highlight this, I guess. There's a difference between a team of engineers building a car off of a design budget and research and you doing it in your garage. I get that, but in the case of the Countach, once again, we're talking like $400,000, $500,000 car here. So even if you are lucky enough to afford one, chances are pretty high that you're not going to want to drive that car out and risk it all getting all dinged up and stuff like that. I mean, I get it that taking that car out is going to feel more of like a special occasion. So, like, I understand that, but wouldn't it be much more practical if, just hypothetically speaking here, you know, you had like a real Countach body, or, you know, a kit car that looked exactly like the real proportions, none of this hokey GM shit. You know, you have a well-built kit car, you have the essence of the car. Look at all these kit cars you see of like early 50s and even early 60s Porsches. People don't seem to give those the eye roll for some reason, and I don't know if rarity is a thing or if like people just want something to drive, but I suspect that one big reason people buy those Porsche kit cars, aside from, you know, the cost of the regular ones, I'm willing to bet you a lot of those custom tube chassis cars actually handle better than the originals, because when you go back to like 50s and 60s and we're talking sports cars, most of them have swing arm suspension. They handle like crap. Let's look at like the Mercedes 300 SL. That's kind of like, actually, fun fact, that's kind of the forbidden fruit of kit cars. There are no licensed kits out there because Mercedes issues cease and desist because they don't want anybody to emulate that car. And I understand applications like that, and admittedly, when you see one, that makes it that much more special, because 9.9 times out of 10, whenever you see a 300 SL Gullwing, it's not a kit. I've seen a couple kits pop up here and there of those. They're all like either hand built or or maybe nobody wants to own up to making them, but either way, somebody made the car, and like I said, chances are that handles better than the original. You can drive it more often because it's a kit. You don't have to worry about it. It's not this $1 million precious sports car that you can't replace. So insurance is going to be a lot cheaper for something like that. So there really are lots of reasons to get into kit cars. But the big asterisk on the end of that is they really have to be built well. They have to have the essence of the original car. And that's going to be subjective to different people, of course. And it has to look good. It has to look like the original car, and not like put the car in a bad light. And yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on that. I would actually personally love to have a Countach kit car someday, because the odds of me being able to obtain a real one are pretty low. I would, like I said earlier, I would even more so love to have a CLK GTR kit car, but nobody makes them. You have to just make it in your garage. So, yeah, I would love to have a Countach kit car. It's been a dream of mine for a long time. I probably shouldn't say in this video, but if I did have a Countach kit car, I know what motor I'd put in there. And I'm going to just kind of leave it at that, because the people that know me know what motor I would put in it, and I don't think we need to go there. But I hope I changed your perspective, or at least gave you some light on the real deal behind kit cars. So, yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.